Hello and welcome to the Nutrition Educational Video Presentation for the University of New Hampshire's Cardiac Rehab and Prevention Program. My name is Maria DeSisto, and the goal of this presentation is to teach you about nutrition, the basics of nutrition, and also to give you the tools, resources, and knowledge to apply into your daily lives in order to try and live healthy for your heart. Let's begin with the importance of nutrition and healthy eating. If you are eating a well-balanced, overall healthy diet filled with color and flavor, you are more likely to have better overall health physically and mentally, which altogether creates an enjoyable and long life for yourself. Right now, there is a public health epidemic regarding obesity within the country. This is a map of the U.S. using CDC 2018 data. It shows the prevalence of self-reported obesity among U.S. adults by states and territories. In 2017 to 2018, the prevalence of obesity was 42.4% of the entire U.S. adult population, which is over 1/3 of the entire population. We are on trend to possibly have half of the entire population categorized as obese within the next 10 years. To compare, the obesity prevalence in 1999 to 2000 was only 30.5% of U.S. adults. Unhealthy eating habits are the biggest contribution to the obesity epidemic. Being obese puts you at an increased risk for all causes of death, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, osteoarthritis, many types of cancer, and more. For those of you who are either slightly overweight or at a healthy weight status, there are still serious health consequences to consuming a poor diet. With today's market of delicious processed foods and fast food restaurants on nearly every corner, it may seem more difficult than ever to eat a healthy diet. Fewer than 1 in 10 U.S. adults are eating enough fruits and vegetables every day. Unhealthy food products seem to be marketed more, as well as being more accessible than healthy food products. There are plenty of delicious and healthy foods in your local grocery stores, and later in the video I will explain a little bit more about that. But here are just a few of the health consequences that come with eating a poor diet. Number 1 is gaining weight and becoming obese, which the disease in and of itself has many consequences that I explained in the previous slide. And number 2 is developing heart disease as well as a stroke. The two leading causes of both of these conditions are high blood pressure and high cholesterol. Consuming too much sodium increases your blood pressure, and consuming too many saturated fats or trans fatty acids increases your cholesterol levels. High contents of sodium and saturated fats are typically found in unhealthy foods. And number 3 is developing type 2 diabetes. This goes hand in hand with overconsuming calories and gaining weight. This causes your body to become less sensitive to insulin. 1 in 3 U.S. adults actually has prediabetes without knowing it. In the last 20 years, the number of adults diagnosed with diabetes has doubled in the U.S. There are many more consequences to unhealthy eating habits. However, let's focus on how to eat healthy and how to lead an overall healthy lifestyle. I'm going to begin by explaining the basics of nutrition, starting with calories. So what is a calorie? A calorie is a unit of energy, and in nutrition, calorie or kcals refers to the energy people get from the food or drinks that they consume and the energy that they burn through exercise and daily activities. We find calories on every food package we see, and we see how many calories we burn on exercise equipment such as treadmills and on Fitbits or Apple Watches. 1 gram of carbohydrates has 4 calories, 1 gram of protein has 4 calories as well, 1 gram of fat has 9 calories, and 1 gram of alcohol has 7 calories. So what is the recommendation for calories you should be consuming daily? According to the 2015 to 2020 dietary guidelines, the recommendation for kcals per day for those over the age of 50 depends on your sex as well as your physical activity levels. Sedentary individuals are classified as those who only engage in activity that is associated with daily activities that are typically light. Moderately active individuals are classified as those who walk about 1.5 to 3 miles per day along with light daily activities. And active individuals are those who walk more than 3 miles per day as well as light daily activities. If you are engaging in the recommended 150 minutes per week of aerobic exercise, chances are you would classify as an active individual. So, for males, your daily caloric consumption should be between 2,400 to 2,600 kcals per day. And for females, your daily goal is between 2,000 and 2,200 kcals per day. So how would this differ if you were looking to lose weight or gain weight? If you are consuming the same amount of calories you are burning every day, you will not see a change in your weight. This is also called caloric balance. If you are consuming more calories than you are burning, you will likely see a weight gain, and this is called being in a caloric surplus. And if you are consuming less calories than you're burning, you will likely see weight loss, and that is called being in a caloric deficit. In order to lose weight, it is recommended that you decrease your daily calorie consumption by about 500 kcals and doing this slowly and gradually. And if you are looking to gain weight, increase your daily kcal consumption by 500 and also doing this slowly and gradually. So let's talk about the 3 macronutrients. The first and most important macronutrient is carbohydrates. So a carbohydrate, otherwise known as a carb, is comprised of sugar, starches, fibers, and are typically found in vegetables, fruits, grains, and dairy. The body breaks carbohydrates down into simple sugars, which are the most readily available form of energy in the body. As sugar levels increase, the pancreas then releases insulin, which is needed to move the excess sugar from the bloodstream into the cells, where it is then stored as an energy source for the brain and the central nervous system. Simple carbs are known as simple sugars. These are the natural sugars you can find in fruits or milk products, but they are also the unnatural sugars found in candies and sugar-sweetened beverages. We recommend consuming the majority of your simple sugars in their natural state. Complex carbs are known as starches or grain products such as rice, bread, crackers, and pasta. Whole grain or whole wheat products are the best type of complex carbohydrates because they contain the most vitamins, fibers, and minerals. Refined and processed grains remove most of the nutrients and fiber that come from the complex carbohydrate. Some examples of healthy carbohydrates include any vegetable you can find, apples, bananas, lentils, kidney beans, almonds, peanuts, chia seeds, oats, and quinoa. A whole grain means that the grain still has the bran, endosperm, and germ part of its body, compared to a refined grain that just has the endosperm. The bran is what makes whole grains darker than refined grains, and whole grains are an important part of your diet because they are packed with nutrients including fiber, B vitamins, antioxidants, and minerals such as iron and zinc. Consuming whole grain products has been shown to reduce your risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and some forms of cancer. The recommendation for carbs is to have 45 to 65% of your daily caloric consumption come from carbohydrates. When choosing what carbohydrates to eat, choose fiber-rich fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, and try to limit your consumption of processed or refined products. Moving on to the next macronutrient, we have protein. Proteins are a crucial part of every cell, tissue, and organ in the body. These proteins are constantly being broken down and replaced, meaning it is extremely important to consume dietary protein in order to build and maintain body cells and tissues. Proteins can be found in animal products, nuts, legumes, tofu, and some grain products. Animal protein versus plant protein. There are differences when it comes to cardiovascular disease risks, but overall, consuming any type of healthy protein source is important for your health and for building and maintaining muscle and tissue. Studies have come out within the last 5 years that have shown animal product consumption to increase cardiovascular disease risk by speeding up atherosclerosis within the arteries, while plant protein consumption decreased the risk of cardiovascular disease, as well as decreasing your risk of developing cancer. There is competing research on this topic, but the biggest takeaway is choosing the right type of animal protein to eat, which would be lean meat. Lean meat is preferred over fatty meats because they have fewer calories, less fat, and they are a great source of vitamins and minerals. Examples of healthy animal protein would include lean turkey or chicken, fish, egg whites, and low-fat dairy. Examples of plant protein include nuts, all-natural peanut butter, legumes, beans, and quinoa. There are two recommendations for daily protein consumption. One is that 10 to 35% of your calories per day should come from protein. The other recommendation is to consume 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. For example, if you weigh 150 pounds, you should be consuming about 54 grams of protein per day. And the third macronutrient is dietary fat. Fat is our primary source of energy storage within the body and is important for maintaining body temperature, protecting against injury, transporting and absorbing fat-soluble vitamins. Dietary fats are categorized into three types of fatty acids: saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, and polyunsaturated fats. The difference between the three is dependent on double bonds of carbon atoms within their molecular structures, but the important thing to remember is that saturated fats are considered to be the bad fats, while unsaturated fats are considered to be the good fats. Saturated fats can be found in dairy products, red meats, poultry, and coconut oil. Monounsaturated fats are found in olive oil, canola oil, avocados, and almonds, while polyunsaturated fats are found in flaxseed, walnuts, fish, and safflower oil. Unsaturated fats are heart healthy in moderation, and avoiding saturated fats as much as possible is the key to preventing an increase in blood cholesterol levels and decreasing your overall cholesterol or cardiovascular disease risk. Trans fatty acids, otherwise known as hydrogenated fats, are liquid vegetable oils that were processed into a more solid fat by adding hydrogen atoms. Consuming trans fat increases your LDL cholesterol levels and lowers your HDL cholesterol levels, which puts you at risk for developing or worsening heart disease. Popular sources of trans fat are baked goods, fried food, frozen pizza, margarine, microwave popcorn, and all of the delicious foods that we love. It is recommended to keep your consumption of trans fat below 2 grams per day or 1% of your total daily calories. Our bodies naturally produce and regulate cholesterol. Our bodies need cholesterol in order to make hormones, build cells, and repair damage within cell walls. 80% of the cholesterol we need in order to stay healthy is already produced within our bodies, so we only need the other 20% from dietary sources. HDLs are considered to be the good cholesterol within the body. They are responsible for removing excess cholesterol from the arteries and blood and bringing them back into the liver, where they are eliminated and cleared from the body. LDLs are the bad cholesterol within the body. They are responsible for putting cholesterol into the arteries in order to repair damage. LDLs are important and needed within the body, but too much LDL increases the risk of plaque formation, otherwise known as atherosclerosis. Some examples of good cholesterol foods that can potentially increase your HDL content are olive oil, whole grains, fish, flax seeds, and certain types of red wine. There is a consequence to consuming too much cholesterol within our diets, and that is the development of atherosclerosis. Plaque buildup is common while aging due to unavoidable damages happening within the arteries, but if your blood cholesterol levels are higher than normal, this can potentially increase the speed at which plaque forms and stays. Over time, blood flow becomes restricted as the plaque grows larger in some of the arteries. Plaque can also burst and dislodge, which could trigger a blood clot. Overall, it's important to decrease the progression of atherosclerosis by being mindful of our cholesterol levels and consumption. The recommendation for dietary fat consumption is 25 to 35% of your daily calories should be from fats, while less than 10% of your daily calories should be coming from saturated fats. Now that we know the basics of nutrition, let's talk about principles of heart-healthy eating. Key recommendations in order to eat more heart-healthy are to reduce caloric intake, increase your consumption of fruits and vegetables, increase consumption of legumes and whole grains, limit your consumption of red meats, added sugars, and sugar-sweetened beverages, replace saturated and trans fats with unsaturated fats, increase consumption of foods with omega-3 fatty acids such as fish, limit your sodium intake, and switch to low-fat or non-fat dairy products. If you make it a goal to adopt one or two of these dietary adjustments every 1 to 2 months, you can ease yourself into eating a more heart-healthy diet without feeling overwhelmed. There are 3 diets recommended by the American Heart Association and Mayo Clinic that are considered to be heart healthy. The first one is the anti-inflammatory diet. This means ditching foods that can cause inflammation within the body, such as fried foods, refined carbs, and processed meats, and increasing your consumption of foods that are known to have more antioxidants, nutrients, fibers, flavonoids, and omega-3s, which all help to fight inflammation. Chronic inflammation within the body has been linked to certain types of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and arthritis. With consuming anti-inflammatory foods such as fish, leafy greens, tomatoes, berries, and avocados, you can avoid inflammation within the body and decrease your risk for diseases. The next recommended diet is the DASH diet, or Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. As we know, hypertension is high blood pressure, so eating foods such as fruits, vegetables, low-fat or non-fat dairy, and decreasing your overall sodium intake can decrease your blood pressure naturally. This diet recommends that you decrease your sodium intake to 2,300 milligrams per day or less, or if you have extremely high blood pressure, it is recommended to decrease to 1,500 milligrams per day or less. Other benefits of following the DASH diet include lowering LDL cholesterol levels, protecting against osteoporosis, cancer, heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. The last recommended diet is the Mediterranean diet, which is based on the traditional foods eaten by the countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea. Studies have shown that the Mediterranean diet is associated with a decreased risk for cardiovascular disease. The key principles of this diet are to have high consumption of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds, keeping a low to moderate consumption of olive oil, fish, poultry, and dairy, while keeping a low consumption of red meats. Other benefits of the Mediterranean diet are reducing your risk or progression of sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle, reducing your risk of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, and type 2 diabetes, as well as increasing your overall longevity. There are many other important aspects of nutrition to be mindful of when trying to eat healthier. The first is fiber. Fiber consumption is an extremely important aspect of your diet. Benefits of proper fiber consumption include decreasing your risk of coronary heart disease, helping to control blood sugar levels, aiding in regular bowel movements, as well as controlling your appetite. There are 2 types of dietary fiber: soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber absorbs the water from food and protects the GI muscles, which aids in proper digestion and preventing constipation. Insoluble fiber stimulates the GI tract and muscles, promoting healthy digestion. Both fibers are found in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Beans, almonds, avocados, and raspberries are the foods that are very high in fiber content. The recommendation for fiber consumption is dependent on your sex. Males should be consuming about 38 grams of fiber per day, while women should be consuming 25 grams of fiber per day. Let's talk about sugar. Everybody loves sugar, whether it's a donut or your favorite flavor of ice cream. Added sugars versus natural sugars. Naturally occurring sugars are found in foods such as fruits and milks, which are in the form of fructose and lactose. Added sugars include any sugars or sweeteners that are being added to the foods or beverages during processing, cooking, or preparation. An example would be adding sugar into your coffee or the addition of sugar into ice cream during production. Some added sugars you may see on food labels are corn sweetener, corn syrup, malt sugar, raw sugar, or fruit juice concentrates. Obviously, natural sugars are more highly recommended than added sugars. The recommendation for sugar revolves around added sugar consumption. Fruits and milks will contain sugar, but in natural forms and are healthy in moderate amounts. The recommendation is to limit the calories consumed from added sugars to no more than 10% per day. Processed foods are considered to be anything that has been subject to washing, cleaning, pasteurizing, cooking, canning, dehydrating, packaging, or any other procedures that alter the food from its natural state. Essentially, almost everything we buy and make is processed, but it is important to know what types of processed foods we should be buying and cooking. Minimally processed foods that are perfectly healthy for consumption would be bagged vegetables, cut vegetables, and roasted nuts. Other moderately healthy processed foods would be canned vegetables or fruits, frozen vegetables or fruits, and canned fish, as well as pasta sauce, dressings, and yogurts. The unhealthy processed foods that everyone thinks of includes crackers, chips, deli meats, and frozen pizza and microwavable dinners. Processed foods are bad because of what is added during the production of the food, which could be sugar, fat, and or salt. There is no real recommendation for how much processed food you should be consuming in a day, but it is recommended to choose healthier processed foods and to limit highly processed foods since they contribute heavily to your saturated fat, sodium, and added sugar consumption. Salt, otherwise known as sodium, is a popular additive to almost all the foods we know and love. Most of the sodium in our diets come from packaged and processed foods, like we discussed during the previous slide. Too much sodium in the diet ultimately increases your blood pressure by holding on to excess fluid within the body, which puts a strain on the heart. Too much sodium will increase your risk of stroke, heart failure, osteoporosis, stomach cancer, and kidney disease. The American diet is infamous for high levels of sodium consumption, so it is important to be mindful of how much we put into our bodies, especially if you already struggle with hypertension. The dietary guidelines for sodium consumption suggest that we limit sodium to less than 2,300 milligrams per day. That is the upper limit to go by in order to prevent hypertension. Those with high blood pressure already should think about the DASH diet and talk to their primary care doctors to see what they suggest. The 6 salty foods to think about and limit that are already popular within our diets are breads, pizza, sandwiches, deli meats, soups, and tacos. Water consumption is vital to your health and heart health by allowing the heart to pump blood efficiently and allowing the muscles to work effectively. We need water in order to function day by day. And the best way to tell if you are hydrated is by the color of your urine. You should look for a pale or clear color, which means that you're well hydrated and meeting your recommended amount. The recommendations for water consumption depend on age, weight, sex, and physical activity levels, as well as if you're taking certain types of medications such as diuretics, or if you're on fluid restrictions due to heart failure. For the general public, it is recommended that men drink about 15.5 cups of water per day, while women drink 11.5 cups of water per day. This does include the water that you get from foods such as fruits and vegetables, which is about 20 to 30%. 8 cups of water per day is a fantastic beginning goal if you need somewhere to start. Alcohol is an important topic to discuss because it can have a positive and negative effect on your health. I'll start with the good news. Moderate alcohol consumption can have the following health benefits. Number 1, increase HDL levels within your body. Number 2, the American Cancer Society said that 1 drink a day during your middle-aged years may reduce your risk of premature death. Number 3, reduce arterial blockage within the legs. Number 4, lower your risk of macular degeneration, which causes blindness. And number 5, decrease your levels of inflammation. All of this depends on the type of alcohol you consume and how much you consume on average. Now, for the negative consequences of alcohol consumption. It can elevate your levels of triglycerides, increase blood pressure, increase your risk of heart failure, increase your daily calories consumed, diminish brain activity, alertness, coordination, and reaction time. It can interfere with your sleep and cause headaches as well as heartburn. It is also extremely important to note that alcohol consumption with certain types of medications can cause serious harm and/or decrease the effectiveness of the medication. It's important to know what 1 drink actually is in order to gauge the dietary recommendations. A 12-ounce beer, an 8 to 9 ounce malt liquor, 5-ounce glass of wine, and 1.5 ounce of distilled spirits are all one standard drink. The recommendation is that women should have no more than 1 drink per day, while men can have up to 2 drinks per day. Some of us think that we depend on caffeine every day in order to function. I know I do. The good news is that moderate consumption of caffeine is not associated with any risks of disease. The safe recommendation for caffeine consumption would be up to 400 milligrams per day. That is a lot. For example, 400 milligrams would be 4 cups of brewed coffee, 10 cans of Coke, or 2 whole energy drinks. Real recommendation is to choose a healthy source of caffeine if we choose to consume it. Caffeinated beverages such as sodas and energy drinks have loads of added sugars in them, which we know is unhealthy. And the cream that we put into our coffee can also have a large amount of saturated fat or sugar, which is also unhealthy. So if you love black coffee, you are in the clear. When choosing what caffeine to consume, read your labels and choose a low sugar or no sugar and low fat or non-fat source. It is important to remember that anything in moderation is okay. It is okay to treat yourself every now and then with delicious foods like a donut, but be mindful of how much you consume in one day or even in 1 week. Now it's time to apply everything we have discussed into real-life situations and to learn how we can eventually achieve a healthier diet. Let's first talk about how to read a nutrition label. Being able to properly read food labels is an important tool to know when searching for what to buy and what not to buy in the grocery store. We're going to break it up into 4 sections for learning purposes, and the first section is serving information. Always start by looking at the serving information. It is found at the top of the food label and it tells you the size of 1 single serving of the food. It also tells you the total number of servings per container. Keep the 1 single serving size in mind when moving on to the next section, which is calories. Looking at the calorie section will tell you how many calories there are per 1 serving of this item. Every single nutrition label will show the amount of calories per serving. So if you end up eating the entire package of this food item in particular, which had 4 servings per container, you would have consumed a total of 1,120 calories. The third section is the nutrient content. This section will always include total fat, cholesterol, sodium, total carbohydrates, and protein, and it is grams per serving, not per package. Not all fats are bad, as we discussed before, so check for the saturated fat content and trans fat content. Under total carbohydrates, check to see if this product has any added sugars as well. The last section to look at and the most confusing section to understand is the percent daily value. Percent daily value tells you what percent of each nutrient you will get from 1 single serving. In terms of the daily recommended amount based on the 2,000 calorie per day diet. The 2,000 calorie per day diet is extremely general and may not apply to you and your activity levels, so take these with a grain of salt. The percent daily value is there to help you determine if a serving is high or low in a nutrient on a scale of 0 to 100. A general rule for the daily value would be that 5% or less of a nutrient per serving is low. This is great for saturated fats, sodium, and added sugars, while 20% or more of a nutrient per serving is high, and this is great for fiber, vitamins, calcium, iron, and potassium, and also the macronutrients if you're struggling to consume your recommended amount for the day. Knowing how to read the ingredients list on food labels is also an important skill. This will tell you more about how processed the item may be and how much of one ingredient there is compared to others. The general rule is that an ingredient list is shorter, the better the product is. Long ingredient lists tend to hide things such as cornstarches, corn syrups, added flavors, and sugar. Another important thing to remember is that ingredients are listed in order of predominance, meaning that the ingredients used in the greatest amount are first. So if we look at the example on this slide, we see that sugar is the second ingredient listed, which means that there's a high content of it. So we would want the ingredient list on the right side opposed to the left side. One more thing to be aware of on food labels are health claims and other claims such as all natural and cage-free. These common food labels and claims are sometimes misconceptions and false claims, while others are true but to an extent. One misconception is 100% organic. This just means that all ingredients are grown or raised according to the USDA's organic standards. This doesn't mean it's necessarily healthier than other products you might find that may not be organic. Another misconception is made with real fruit. This means that there aren't any artificial flavors or sugars within the product, but real sugars such as cane sugar or raw sugar could be added at large amounts without taking away the label of real fruit. Another more specific food label is light, especially light ice cream. These products could still have 4 to 5 grams of fat per serving and loads of sugar. The producers most likely just decreased the overall amount per serving in order to make it seem healthier. Some common food labels that we see but may not understand are low fat, which means that there is less than 3 grams of fat per serving, low saturated fat, meaning there is 1 gram or less per serving, and low sodium, meaning there is less than 140 milligrams per serving. When in doubt, just read the nutrition label and ingredients list to understand what is in the product. Moving on to a new topic, let's talk about the difference between servings and portions. A serving size is the standardized amount of food that you can find on the back of the nutrition label. It can be used to quantify recommended amounts of food and is based on the 2,000 calorie per day diet. Servings are really important, especially when thinking about how many fruits and vegetables we should be eating per day. It is recommended that we have at least 4 servings of fruits per day and 5 servings of vegetables per day. A portion size is the amount of food that you choose to serve yourself and to eat, which could be more or less than a serving size. Portion sizes are extremely important because if you don't understand how to properly portion foods, you could unintentionally overserve yourself or underserve yourself and lead to unintentional weight gain or weight loss. So how do we control our portions? One of the easiest ways to portion control is to use visual cues in order to get a sense of how much food you should be serving yourself without having to measure each item of food that you do choose to eat. The picture above is a portion-controlled plate visual, meaning that half of your plate should be vegetables, 1/4 of your plate should have a healthy protein source, while the other 1/4 of your plate should consist of complex carbohydrates. This visual is a great cue to use when attending events or buffets where it is a serve-yourself eating environment. Another helpful visual cue is to use when portioning your food is using your hands, remembering that 1 teaspoon is the size of 1 fingertip and that the size of your fist is about 1 cup for rice, fruits, and vegetables. These quick measurements become extremely helpful when cooking any meal at home. Here are the top 7 tips on how you can portion your meals and snacks. Number 1, use smaller dinnerware such as plates, spoons, and forks. There are studies that prove that the size of your dinnerware, especially plates, will influence how much you eat in one sitting. Using a smaller plate can lower the amount of food that you consume while making you feel just as satisfied after a meal. Number 2 is using your plate, which we already discussed, and we already discussed using our hands as a portioning tool as well. So tip number 4 is when eating out, ask for half a portion or only choose to eat half of the meal and take the rest to go. Restaurants tend to give out large portions of food, so it's important to start with half or maybe 1/4 of your meal and then see how you feel without feeling the pressure to finish your plate. Number 5 is to start all meals with a glass of water. This can help us feel a little less hungry before eating, which can help us limit the amount of food we eat, and it also helps to distinguish between the feeling of hunger and thirst. Number 6 is to take it slow, meaning slow down when eating. If you eat too fast, your body may not realize when it's full until it's too late, so make sure to take your time and really enjoy your meal. Last but not least, do not eat from the package. Pour out a portion of the food from its box or container in order to avoid overeating and finishing a whole box of Cheez-Its or whatever your favorite snack may be. The last tips I have for you are on how to grocery shop. Grocery shopping for healthy foods can seem intimidating, time-consuming, as well as expensive. Let's ditch that mentality and learn how to make shopping quick and easy. The first tip I have for you is to carve out the day and times that you can commit to grocery shopping. If you don't carve out time in your hectic schedules, this can make shopping seem more stressful, more difficult, and just an overall hassle. Secondly, make a shopping list. If you make a shopping list, this can help you avoid impulse purchases and help you to save money and time. Try and create accessible recipe books and/or pre-plan your meals for the week or two and shop for those ingredients only. This will also help to save money, time, and avoid buying unhealthy snacks and quick fixes. The fourth tip would be to not shop when you are hungry. This results in many impulse buys. When buying anything in a can, choose unsalted or reduced sodium options in order to reduce your sodium consumption. If fresh produce is unavailable, inaccessible, or too expensive, choose frozen produce instead. It's just as healthy as long as you check the nutrition label and be sure that there are no added sugars or salts. Another tip is to shop the perimeter of the store. The outside aisles of almost every grocery store contains all of the healthy foods such as fruits, vegetables, dairy, meat, and fish. The center aisles contain more processed and unhealthy foods. Last but not least, my last tip is when in doubt, take the extra time when grocery shopping to scan the nutrition labels. It doesn't hurt to be more conscious of what you're buying. Some useful resources where you can learn more about certain topics include the American Heart Association, the Dietary Guidelines PDF, the FDA's website, as well as the Mayo Clinic and the CDC. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope that you learned a few things on nutrition and most importantly, how to apply nutrition topics and ideas into your lives. Thank you again, and always remember to live healthy for your heart.